I am Aditya. I have given multiple mains basically. My scores basically with respect to prelims is more than IFOS cutoff all the time. Okay, another 15-20 marks more than IFOS cutoff. Right, so it means that let's say if the cutoff was around 98, then my score would be 135 to 140 like that. Right, so that is around 20 marks more than the IFOS cutoff. So it is nothing to do much with basically how much knowledgeable I am. Okay, so someone who has scored somewhere around 90, 100 also, they might have a similar kind of knowledge, or some few people may have little more also. But it's about how do you implement. The prelims is a different game altogether compared to your mains, right? Mains mein what will happen? It will have 7 papers, including your optional. Forget about the compulsory languages. Otherwise, it is 4 GS, 1 essay, and 2 optional papers. So even if you have done mistake in one paper, still you can manage them with other subject. You can cover them, let's say, right? But prelims is mostly about 2 hours. In that 2 hours, if you miss, that will cost you an year, right? And second, basically, it is basically, since it is only 100 questions, right? It is 200 marks. The cutoff becomes very, very near. When you would have scored 82, within 85 you will get hundreds of people. Within 90 you will get, so many of people will be in that small margin basically, unlike mains, right? So because of which basically even 1 or 2 question can decide whether you can clear this time or not. So keeping that in mind, it is important to plan what exactly you have to do for prelims, and what are few things, because there are few mistakes that student usually do. It is not about their knowledge, it is not about their ability, it is about managing the things. One, within the examination of 2 hours, how do you manage it? This is a very, very crucial thing. Then before 2 months, before the prelims, how do you manage it? Because what happens here is, let's say if I take the subjects, you have to study with respect to history, ancient India, medieval India, art and culture, modern India, right? Geography, okay, it can be physical geography and world geography plus Indian geography. With respect to then polity, economy, science and tech, IR, then let's say current affairs. Within current affairs, again, particularly government schemes and other things will come, other current affairs will also appear. Now, if you look at it, basically it's around 10 subjects, right? So when it is around 10 subject, let's say, if I am starting in the last 2 months, right? Let's say 60 days, you will not even get 6 days per subject. Within that, you have to revise at least 2 to 3 times. This is where the challenging comes basically, right? So that means that many students, what they do in the long run, because now you have 1 year basically, almost not 1 year at this point of time, or let's say around 7 to 8 months. So what you will be doing, let's say I am studying NCERT, right? I am studying standard book, I am studying class notes, same related to it, I will study the text series and synopsis out of it. Along with that, I will also study the current affairs magazine. If I am doing on my own, then my own current affairs notes along with that institute notes. That means that for polity you are studying 3-4 NCERTs, 1 class notes, and then 1 standard book. Along with that, the synopsis that you have studied, you have underlined the important point, whatever after the test you go and see, and you come to know that these are the mistake, you will revise them and underline them. Now what happens in the last 2 months, if you just look at it for the 10 subjects, okay, this is the management of the material that will come into handy when you are preparing for the last 2 months. Here what people will mess it up, right? And also they want to attend as many questions as possible or question papers as possible. So they will take, Insight text series and other institute text series. Along with that, they will also be doing PYQs. So it becomes too much of resource management, content management in the last 2 months. Who manages it well, who understands it well, right? He can easily sail through. Who could not manage it basically, in the last 15-20 days, so you won't be knowing what to complete today, what to complete tomorrow, because all 15 days you feel that so much of things are still yet to do. Many will decide, I will write next year. Few will somehow take the chance, and with that mindset when you enter the examination, even the unknown question, a very simple question it will be, or it may be a little difficult question as well, it looks like you have not studied, others would have already studied it. This one mindset in the examination makes you start, self-doubting yourself. Within the 2 hours, you start taking unnecessary risk. Though you don't know, but you start feeling that I could not cover this. Because of which someone else is doing, I am not doing, somehow I have to take the chances. So you start taking the chances and you will start making many mistakes in that taking the chances, right? So in that way, basically what will happen is, even you could have easily cleared the cutoff, just because of the negative marks, many will not clear the cutoff. Then they realize that I would have attended less, and that way, right? So that is why you should understand what prelims is basically from now itself, right? Because it is mostly about the management of the content. This is one thing. Second, the common mistake I am telling, what students will do, whatever, not just a student, when we were preparing, we were also students like you. That means, but we would also gone to the library and studying. So there will be few of our friends who are giving the attempt with the utmost seriousness. They were also coming at 9 o'clock in the morning to the library till late night, 9 they were studying at the library. So the mistakes, whatever that they were doing and what we were not doing, basically, when I observe and when I look back, right, I can see the difference now. Okay, this was the difference. At that point of time, we are not aware that maybe he's doing correct, I am doing correct. We won't be knowing about it. Basically, we will be following our own path. What makes you feel better, you will be following it based on your understanding of the examination. Other person will be following what is better for him, what he feels about the examination. We won't be knowing who is right, who is wrong here. But once you start getting the result every year, and someone else is not getting, even though they are good at it, when you talk to them during your tea break, with respect to the subject, they have plenty of knowledge about the subject. They have clarity about the concept. But there are something that they have done the mistakes in the run of the, in that journey, and they would have missed the thing. So keeping that in mind, one is this content management that I have seen many people will not manage it properly. What is the second mistake? Second mistake is, there are two things with respect to your PYQ analysis. PYQ analysis is not about understanding the topics, right? What if I say someone do the PYQ analysis, what they will do? They will list down, polity mein this many topics had come. That is not analysis, that is already there, that is visible. That is just a fact. I can write, take down the question, it is clearly visible, right? What is the analysis? What is the analysis is understanding the depthness, right? Analysis means, let's say if they are asking about a topic, let's say Buddhism they are asking, right? Buddhism is a hot theme of UPSC. Every year one question will come, okay? Sometimes 2 questions also per year will come from Buddhism, right? Now initially what they will do, they had asked about basics about Buddhism. For example, the principles of Buddhism, right? The sects of Buddhism, right? Mahayana, Hinayana, difference between Mahayana and Hinayana. Then they have started going subsects of Mahayana, subsects of Hinayana. Then they have started giving, what is the future Buddha, this symbol is what about it. So that kind of things. Then they also started about Buddhist architecture, right? Recently they have moved to Buddhist literature, right? That is a trend basically. They have started from the architecture. They have almost done with the architecture, cave architecture, stupa, they have done with. Now they are also moving to the Buddhist literature, which was not asked if you look at last 10 years paper. From the last 3-4 years, the questions are also on the Buddhist literature. That is basically understanding that Buddhism is a theme, then dividing Buddhism into various basically sub-theme without it. Within the theme, how depth you are supposed to go. That means that if I take Hinayana, that is the major sect. You have to completely understand what is Hinayana, what is the basic principle of it, how Hinayana and Mahayana are different to each other, right? Some will be focused only on, the common math language Pali, and other will focus upon Sanskrit. One will be doing idol worship, other is not doing the idol worship, only relics of Buddha, only that will be doing by one, Hinayana, right? Then there is no basically Bodhisattva concept in Hinayana, and however there is a Bodhisattva concept in Mahayana. Like that, basically there are few differences. Now that is okay, but when you go to the subsects of Hinayana and Mahayana, you should not again further study the the features of it, because in that depth if you start studying, then the Buddhism itself take 5 days for you to study. All you have to do is you have to understand that when I am going down, right, in my hierarchy about the topics, I should only know about the facts about them. That means that if I identify whether it is comes under Hinayana or Mahayana, at max who is actually founder of this sect, that's it. Or if you want to go further, where you can find it. Only 3 information. That is where you can find this kind of sect. Second, who is the founder of it. Third, basically whether it comes under Hinayana and Mahayana. Now what principle it talks about? It is actually too depth to study. Right. So that means that you should start putting the boundary. Right. In a one way, basically, in a simple sentence, prelims is more about horizontal coverage rather than the vertical coverage. This is, if you don't understand this simple line, basically, it becomes very difficult to clear the prelims. It is more about horizontal analysis or horizontal cover of the subject. That means that I should know as many topics as possible, but the depthness is not required. That means that if I take one subject, for example, if I take, speaker, right, how he is elected, okay. After that, how that procedure will be there, what will be the, the authority, how we will decide it, how the election will happen, who will sit where, that is not required basically. So you don't need to go to the procedural level. What you should go about the constitutional level, you have to understand. Right, in that way, basically, you should cover maximum topics as possible. However, if that is very, very important theme, then only you should go a little vertically depth. For example, if I want to cover what is vertical, what is basically horizontal is, let's say, if I want to divide the themes, right, among the personalities of modern India, right. Now what happens, there are multiple sources. One is, let's say, NCERT I am studying, right. Maybe another book is, for example, for modern India, I am studying spectrum, okay. I am not studying spectrum, but people study spectrum, okay. So basically, let's keep it that way. What majority study? Let's say spectrum they study, and let's say they study NCERT. One is our past 3, or they may study basically themes of Indian history part 2, right. In those 2 books, people will study. Some people also may study the Tamil Nadu NCERT book or old NCERT book by Bipin Chandra also can be studied, right. So there are basically multiple sources, right. We are not discussing the sources as of now, but let's try to understand what is the themes basically, right. Now, if I ask you with respect to your own knowledge, I will give you 5 personalities, right. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, okay. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Jyotiba Phule, right, Devendranath Tagore, Syed Ahmad Khan, okay. If I want to prioritize, okay, as from the history point of view, their contribution point of view, whom do you think that who has contributed much for the reform movement? Rajaram Mohan Rai. Then you can say Jyotiba Phule for the basically the Dalit movement or lower caste movement. Also I can talk about Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar to an extent. Devendranath Tagore and those people have contributed, but not much when compared to this. We are prioritizing here, right? When I am it is not the emotional contribution, but it is more about the literal contribution from the history perspective of view. That means that if I am talking about Mahatma Gandhi, if I am talking about Bhagat Singh, if I am talking about, let's say, Jawaharlal Nehru, right, Subhash Chandra Bose, right. If I want to prioritize basically, contribution of Bhagat Singh basically is much lesser historically, right. Forget about, that maybe the effort at his stage, whatever he had done, that is great thing, and those things I am not discussing. But only as a history, as a subject, if I consider, then it is more about Mahatma Gandhi, more about Ambedkar. Their contribution is much more in terms of, because they were, active for a very long time. When they were active for a very long time, they have associated with many of the basically associations or, the institutions. They were associated with many of the newspapers. They were associated with the many of the, let's say, various movements, right. That is why their contribution with respect to history pages, it will be more, right. I am not talking about the intensity of the contribution, but I am talking about the historical timeline, how long they have contributed. Once you see how long they have contributed, their contribution is much more. Now that means that when I am studying basically for the mains, or sorry, for the prelims, basically there comes 2 points, right. My sources is fixed, Bipin Chandra, let's say, NCERT and, let's say any book basically, spectrum and NCERT and class notes. 3 books are fixed. Let's say take anything. Now about Mahatma Gandhi, I cannot just take myself to basically these books. That means that this is an important thing. Mahatma Gandhi is been asked alternative year, right? That means that the question on Mahatma Gandhi, the probability of getting on Mahatma Gandhi is much higher compared to what you can expect on, for example, Bhagat Singh or Subhash Chandra Bose or Jawaharlal Nehru for that matter. Now for these personalities, whatever the sources you have, you can prepare from that. That would be more than sufficient. You don't need to do research on, let's say, Bhagat Singh. You don't need to do research on, let's say, Jawaharlal Nehru. Whatever there in the book, basically, that much of information would suffice. But when you are talking about, for example, Mahatma Gandhi, the information, whatever there in the book, because they are not writing it about Gandhi, but they are writing it about freedom movement. Wherever Gandhi comes, they would have mentioned about his contribution, but as an individual Gandhi, they have not described him basically, right? So that means that your job is to also search about him, whatever the various newspaper he has been associated. In South Africa, what are the movement he was associated? What were his, Tolstoy, various personalities that influenced Gandhiji, right? Along with that various movements that Gandhiji was associated with. Along with the books, you should also search because that is an important theme. Here, the depthness becomes important. You cannot just stick yourself to whatever the book is saying. You study 10 books. On all the book, in respect to some context, Gandhi would have been discussed. Gandhi would have been not discussed individually. Non-cooperation movement is there, Gandhi's role would have been told. Civil disobedience movement is there, Gandhi's role would have been told. Right? That is round table conference is, Gandhi's role would have been told. Right? So that means that our Quit India movement is there, Gandhi's role would have been told. Right? Harijan movement is there, Gandhi's role would have been. I mean, some movement may Gandhi's role would have come. But Gandhi himself has not been discussed in detail. Right? So now what happens, this is an important theme. There is a higher chance of you can get questions here. As you can get higher questions, number of questions here, you cannot stick yourself to only the sources, that is the standard sources that you are reading. Right? You have to go, because their basic question about Gandhiji has been already done by UPSC. They have already asking from the same thing and they have done with the basic question. That means that this rule will apply to everybody. That means that, let's say, in history, if I am talking about Mauryan Empire, Ashoka becomes more important, right? Chandragupta Maurya 2 becomes more important, or let's say, Chandragupta 2 becomes very important because of the Navaratnas that he had, cultural contribution that he has had. That is, among the Guptas, more than Samudragupta, it becomes Chandragupta becomes more important. Like that, basically, every chapter will have certain themes which are more important than other, right? So it is not that I should give equal weightage to all the topics. That will not work that way. Okay? If I am thinking that I will cover everything, that will not work that way. Some topics are more important than others. Which are more important, you have to go little bit depth compared to these topics. That means what for these topics, even if you are covering from NCERT, class notes and your standard book, that would be more than sufficient. But for those topics which you feel really important, you should go beyond that. Right? You should already have the notes about it. Right? So that is one more making the themes. That is, don't just study or see the topics, rather understand the themes which are repeatedly asked. Once you understand the themes, then start dissecting it. Buddhism, start dissecting what else can be asked. Now in the Buddhist literature, what they are asking? They are giving 4 books, asking whether they are coming under Buddhist literature or Jainist literature. Are they asking anything about that book? That means that what I am saying is you don't need to go in depth about that book. What is there, the content of that book, right? Only who has written it, unless it is having a historical significance. That means that if a Raja Tarangini is talking about, the history of Kashmir, which you don't get elsewhere, so we will get, reconstruct the history of Kashmir many a times only because of the Raja Tarangini, then Raja Tarangini becomes important because it has a historical significance, right? Similarly, Mudra Rakshasa may have something related to how Gupta Empire and something related to Maurya Empire, something related to it. So, that is some historical significance it is having, that is why it becomes little important. Not other than that basically. But other books, all you have to know is what is the book name, who is the author of it. If he is a very famous author, under who, whose kingdom he was actually there, and who are his contemporaries. That is actually in a more realistic picture, right? However, When I am studying Kalidasa, he is the greatest poet. Now on his books you cannot say that I just know Kalidasa written which book. At least you should know what is this book is about. That means that based on its important in the history, based on its important in the culture, you have to go little depth or not has to be decided. Not just because in NCERT or in any other book, they would have just given the book names. What is that book is about? If you want to study, if it is about Kalidasa, you should go depth. If it is about others, basically just know the name, the book he has written. So that means that for few topics, you should only study the horizontal understanding. That means that you should just know the information about it. Don't try to dig too much. Because many a times what happens, these synopses and other things, they would have taken it from some book and would have been given it. Now book cannot, if I am writing history book, let's say if I am talking about Mudra Rakshasa, then I will also explain some topic about it or some details about it, because I am writing book, I am not giving notes. That means that they would have given. Now whoever is making synopsis also will take all the information that is there in that book and give it to you when he is talking about Mudra Rakshasa. Question is about who is the author, but in the synopsis they also have the detail about Mudra Rakshasa. So you start underlining everything and start reading so much of unwanted details where basically which will affect your overall preparation. Why? Because when I am started to learning too many facts which are unnecessary for the examination, then whatever that is really important, that I will not, there is a high chance that I can forget those things. So that means that you have to prioritize your basic understanding of the subject. Let's say if I want to know about some facts, right, if it is really can be asked, then mug up that fact. Some facts which are not very important, they are going very deep into that fact, please don't study that fact. Just have the basic understanding, that's it. So that means that where you are supposed to stop, that makes a lot of difference. When I do that, then my entire history I can finish in one day, because I know that okay, only the book names are needed, what has happened here, what has happened here. Now this 6 days for each subject, 60 days, 10 subject, looks very easy. 2 days I can finish one subject, because I know where I have to stop, where I should not go beyond. For example, what happened, let's say Lakshmikant is writing the book. Now he has taken the non-constitutional bodies. Within the non-constitutional body, he will tell these were the members, who will appoint it. Within that there will be a committee where leader of opposition will be there, prime minister will be there, so and so will be there. They will sit and decide, send the name, then there will be discussion, then whatever that happens, right? So basically he is giving you all the detail, right? Now there are two types of body that we study in Lakshmikant book. One is constitutional bodies, one is non-constitutional bodies. Within non-constitutional bodies, there are some statutory bodies, some even established by the executive action. They don't even have the statute, right? They don't even have a law, right? It has been done by a executive action. Now, constitutional bodies are limited because they have been mentioned in the constitution, right? Now that is, let's say UPSC, right? Election Commission, right? All these things basically, right? So Finance Commission, now GST board, all these are basically, or GST council, whatever that is, basically that when we are discussing, all are constitutional bodies, right? Now who should be the member of it? What should be the basic eligibility criteria you should have, everything constitution has defined. So they become important. Now when you are studying about non-constitutional body, all constitutional body, whatever that is there, the constitutional body, except that all are non-constitutional body. Then there will be thousands of non-constitutional bodies. Just because Lakshmikant have given 10, I cannot assume that I should study only about 10. It can be about 20 also. He cannot give 20, 30 bodies. He would have given major important 7, 8 bodies, right? Where he would have given their function, where he would have given their basically how they are appointed, everything. Now if I start studying how they are appointed, that is more of an administrative issue. That is nothing to do with basically for us understanding how a member of pollution control board is appointed. What I am to do with it? All I have to do is what is the function of pollution control board, what powers it has, which act has given the power to it, what it can do, what it cannot do, right? If it is giving some report, what kind of reports it publishes, that's it, right? Now how its member is appointed, who is its chairman, then there is no end to it. If you look at the last 10-15 years paper, even on the constitutional body here 1 or 2 questions, but there is a 0 question on non-constitutional bodies. except if it is important from some or other sector. For example, Pollution Control Board is actually a nodal agency in the entire environment body. They would have asked. National Green Tribunal would have asked. But they will never ask a smaller bodies which you can see. Right? You don't have a single question on Vigilance Commission. You don't have single question on Information Commission. How information commissioners will be appointed, what is their age, when they will get retired, how they will be removed. All these are actually given under the laws. Like that, if you start studying all the non-constitutional bodies, then there is no end to your study. So you should understand based on the PYQs, some topics they are not asking about the administrative details. They are asking more about the legal details, which how it has been appointed, they will never ask. Who appoints him, they will never ask. That is administrative. It is a more of a issue that they handle themselves. For you as a citizen, what becomes important for us? For us, it becomes very important what is their role in Indian administration, how they control the pollution, who gave them that power to give these orders, which act, under which act it has been established. That means that Central Pollution Control Body, Pollution Control Board would have been, they will give, it has been established under Water Act 1974, right, Air Act 1977, right, they can give Environmental Protection Act 1986, right, Conservation of Biodiversity Act 2002, like that they can give you different act, they can say that it has been acted under which act. So that is more important for us rather than, even if you have seen basically the question on the Pollution Control Board, it has been asked this way, right. They have asked the difference between Central Pollution Control Board as well as NGT, right. It has been, they have given that it actually has been established by an act. They have not even given the name of act. They have just told that it is a statutory body that has been, statutory means what? What is statute? Law. Statute is law. Statutory body is through some act, right? It has been through some legal action, it would have been established. That means that there is some act which has given for establishment of this body, right? It has not taken as a executive decision. It is through act has given the power, using that power through that act, government has established that body. That is basically statute body, right? Statutory body, right? Now they have asked about one, and then the second statement they have given is NGT is not established under a statutory body. It has been established under, let's say, an executive action. That is what they have given. But this is also established under a act basically. But they have given that statement, right? Then they have given the functions. What CPCB will look into, what NGT will be looked into. So that is basically the difference between these two bodies have been asked. Other than that, you don't get any question on non-constitutional bodies, right? Similarly, Central Water Commission, something that they have asked one, which has been established under which act? Again, Environmental Protection 1986 Act, that is what they have asked. So that is what they were going to ask. That means that when you are analyzing the paper, two things you have to analyze. One, okay, that will give you the theme. That is, theme is the larger one. Within the theme comes topic, right? For example, pollution is a theme, within which subtopic will come basically. Water pollution, air pollution, that is basically topics that we are discussing. Pollutants, disease and pollutants, they are basically topics. But majorly, theme is the larger one, under which you can classify this topic, that is basically theme. Once you understand the topic, within this topic, what are the dimensions has been asked. That means that if they are asking about some theme, what are the dimensions, right? For example, there are few topics where they will ask you the logic based question or the conceptual based question. For example, in these years, if you see last 2-3 years, the trend has little changed, right? Now they have started asking assertion and reasoning, right? And then they have started asking match the following pair. They are asking how many pairs are met, how many statements are correct. Along with that, even they have started giving 3 tables. Okay. For example, national park, which species it is known for, where it is located. 3 information they are giving in a table and trying to, before they were asking only pairs with 2. Now they have started asking 3 pairs. That means that it will national park name is correct, and which animal it is known for, that is correct. But state would be wrong. Like that, one information among the 3 would have been exchanged. Otherwise, that kind of, the 3 pairs has been started asking from the last year. That is the change that has been done in the last year. But other than that, basically these are some part of the or some kind of question that they are asking. Now, if you look or observe, closely observe where this assertion and reasoning questions are coming. Assertion or reasoning are nothing but the conceptual. They will tell you assertion, that is an assumption they will tell, right? Based on the assertion, they will give you a reason for that assertion. That means that explanation for that phenomena, right? If I lay light bends, then I will give why it bends, that is the reasoning, right? Then they can give you the reasoning behind that assertion, right? Now they will ask you both assertion and reasoning are correct, but the reasoning is correctly explains the assertion. That is first statement. Both are correct, but it is not explaining the first statement. That is basically second statement. Then first is correct, second is wrong. Reasoning is correct, and the first is incorrect, second is correct. Like that, they will give 4 different options, right? However, this is basically something related to conceptual. If you are clear about the concept, then only you can sell. Otherwise, you will be knowing that both are correct, but whether it is explaining it or not, you won't be knowing unless you are very clear about the concept, right? So that means that this kind of question, if you have observed last 4-5 years, last 2-3 years, they have started asking from basically 2020 to 21 say they have started asking assertion reasoning. So if you have closely observed where this kind of question has been asked, on which subject they have asked this question. Geography, within geography where? Because geography has many chapters basically. Indian geography, everything it is having climatology, geomorphology, oceanography, right, biogeography, right, human geography, economic geography, where they have asked. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, we'll keep it. Okay, geography they have asked. After geography, in which other subject they have asked? Majorly. Environment they have asked. Which question of environment they have asked? About species, assertion and reasoning has been asked. Pollution they have asked. Okay. Pollution they have asked. Okay. Then, have they asked any assertion reasoning question on history? Art and culture they have asked. What question they have asked? You don't guess basically. See, otherwise I start getting confused. Science and tech, for few questions, science and tech they would have asked. Then, economy, IR, right? Polity very less, right? Polity they have asked mostly about the constitution, not about the reasoning as such basically. But majorly they have asked in geography, especially in climatology, okay? And economy is the second major subject where they have asked maximum of these questions, right? But if you look at match the following, how many pairs are followed, this kind of question, where this kind of question has been asked? History and the geography part where there is basically rivers and tributaries are there, lakes and this thing will be there, purely informational topics. That means that even in geography, there are few topics like climatology, geomorphology where there is something conceptual, right? That means that whenever you are studying these subjects like economy, with respect to, your geography, that too especially the physical geography part of it, right? These are conceptual in nature. You should try to study more about the conceptual. Even in the Indian geography, let's say there are few concepts only, right? Why Western Ghats slope this way or Eastern Ghat that way, and other way, the how natural ports are there, why some artificial ports are there, or let's say what is about, within the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, within why Bay of Bengal Sea maximum tropical cyclone, not in the Arabian Sea. These kind of questions basically, right? Mangroves can be only seen in the eastern coast but not much in the western coast, right? So that is basically there are few type of questions that can be, you can see how it is being asked there. Or with respect to the climatology, with respect to the monsoon, you can see few questions with respect to Indian geography, but not much. But whenever it comes to the drainage system, again there can be few questions about the drainage pattern. Why this kind of patronage is there with respect to this kind of terrain, right? Why the terrain in the the peninsular India, how the river terrains are there, or how river patterns are there in the Gangetic plain, or why it is dendritic in the pattern, right? So that is basically about the conceptual idea that we want to discuss. So wherever some conceptual are there, other than that most of them are factual. Which are the tributary, which are the lakes, which are the dam has been constructed, all are actually factual. So that means that even in history, if you look, most of the pairs, match the pairs question has been asked from the history. History is purely factual, not even statement based question as asked. Forget about basically, the assertion and reasoning. Even within the question, they have not given the statements. They have just said who wrote this book for offer. Right? That means that whenever you are studying history, for your understanding, liking the subject, you study about it. It's fine. How it has worked, that would be fine. But when you are studying from the prelims perspective, mostly you have to only worry about facts and mugging up the facts. Not going, too deep into it, studying into it. It is whether you know more facts in the history or not. If I am asking you 10, places of Indus Valley civilization, whether you know it comes under Indus Valley civilization, whether it is in India, whether it is in Pakistan, whether it is in Afghanistan, or whether, it's a Paleolithic site, Neolithic site, Mesolithic site, right? Chalcolithic site, then, megalithic site. So whether which kind of site it is. All you have to know is in that chapter, the name of the place or the location, which site it is. If something is very important is there, which you can find there, then you should know. For example, pit dwelling can be seen where? Pit dwelling actually, it is in Kashmir. Which place is known for pit dwelling? Burzom, right? Correct. Burzom is known for pit dwelling. It is located in Kashmir. Pit dwelling, right? It is so cold that, they cannot make house here. So within the ice acts as an insulator. So within the ice they make houses. So ice will be covered. So and inside like a igloos, right? That we are talking about in the Sweden, right? So similar kind of pit dwelling can be found in the Neolithic site, which is basically in the Burzom, which is located in the Kashmir. In the examination they have given that Burzom and known for rock cut architecture. It was match the pair following question that has been asked. Right? They have given 4 pairs, how much are properly met. In one of the option was Burzom and rock cut architecture. But Burzom, it is there in basically Kashmir. That itself means that it is completely with the ice. That means that it is not known for the rock cut architecture. Rock cut architecture can be majorly found in the peninsular India, where the rock itself has to be so hard to cut and make a structure out of it. It is not on the ice, right? Even if you know that it is in Kashmir, you can easily take it out. It won't be knowing for basically rock cut architecture as such, right? Kailasanath temple known for rock cut architecture. So where it is basically hard rocks are available, where you can cut and make a structure out of it, not on the regions like Burzom. But that keeping that aside, basically what I am saying is it is purely a factual question. If it is, you should know the place, you should know which era it belongs to, then basically, let's say what it is known for. If it is very much important. In general, if they have told that, extensive field can be seen, extensive this can be seen, but there is nothing specific information, then you don't even need to know that also. You can see the pots there, you can see pottery there, you can see many of the, humans with animals can be seen there. That can be seen in all of the sites basically. It is not specific to one site. That you don't need to remember unless it is specific to that site. You don't need to remember. Other than that, for example, Lothal, known for port, you should remember. That is only the port that you can see there, right? Then you have to remember. Otherwise, you don't need to remember even the small details. But when we are writing the book or the authors are writing the book, they will give every information related to that place. But from your examination point of view, all that information is not necessary, right? So you should know where to cut that basically by analyzing the PYQs. Analyzing the PYQ means understanding what is asking here. And my preparation for few topics, it will be more of a mugging up. For few topics or few subjects, completely understanding the subject. It is not that I will understand all the subject, not mug up, or I will keep on mugging up without understanding the subject. Both approach will not do. For few subject, you have to mug up. Whether you are from science background, you are more a logical person, doesn't matter. You have to mug up because question is basically asking about facts. For few topics, even though if you are not someone who is more logical, still you have to try to understand the basic of it and learn the concept of it. So you have to make your preparation in such a way that as the subject demands, you have to prepare. Then most of the question, see, and most, if you know the cutoff basically, No, will not go too much behind. Let's say last 7-8 years, how it has been performed, right? 2016, the cutoff was around 116. Okay, that means that to clear the examination, you should score 58 net questions. 58 net question. Net question means not 58 questions are right, then you will not clear. Right? Net means basically what? Let's say if I have attended 12 questions and I made 9 correct, 3 wrong. Each, one wrong is basically 1/3. 3 wrongs will take away my 1 right question. Okay, that means that 3 wrong will take away your 1 question. So net 8 question you have scored. That is basically net. Let's say if I have attended 50 questions, okay, 38 I made it correct, 12 wrong. Each 3 question take away my 1 right question. That means that 12 means it will take away 4 right question. From the 38, if I remove 4, 34 is the net question. Like that, the net 58 is what will you get? 216. That means that even if you score 65 correct, attending 90, then all you can make is 20 mistakes. If you do 20 mistakes and 65 correct, then only you will get basically 58 as net. Okay. So second, that means that at that point of time around 1100 plus seats were there. Next year 1000 seats, it has been reduced to 1020 seats. However, in 2017, when they have announced the notification that the number of seats available this year is lesser than last year, that is 100 less, people started telling that cutoff will go high now. Because lesser the seat, more intense competition, higher will be cutoff. More the seat, lesser the competition, cutoff will be little lesser. Right? So that is the basic logic. Now, however, even after that, paper become little difficult compared to 2016. Cutoff was 105. Okay. Then in 2018, number of seats were around only 900. People again started speculating the same. This year, number of seats are less, cutoff will be more. Again, paper was much tougher compared to 2017. Cutoff become 98. 2019 again it is 98. Right? 20 it has become 91. Right? It has started going down. Right? To such an extent that it was in 2023 it was around 78, 76. Right? So it has been gone down because in 2023 one of the reason is there are 3-4 questions were dropped also. Okay, they were having a very different options with respect to UPS final answer key and other coaching answer keys basically. So there were few things that has been changed. Other than that, cutoff has started going down to 85. Now this year may be little easy compared to the last year. So cutoff may be around 90. Okay, not 100 also, because people who have scored 90, 95 have cleared. 85 to 90. There are many students of us who have scored between 85 to 90. Compared to last year, they were scoring well, so they were feeling that they would clear, but they could not clear. But those who have scored 90 plus have cleared. So maybe we are again with respect to some answer keys can be different from one institute to another institute, or UPSC answer key to insights. So score may vary another 4-5 marks, but otherwise cutoff will be between 90 to 95. Right. So what does that mean? 90 to 95 means, let's say all you have to get is 45 to 50 net questions. If I am getting 45 net questions, then I will be scoring 90. If I am scoring 50 net question, I will be scoring 100. As long as you are scoring around 45 to 50 net question, you are safe. Right? That means that even the paper become little easy next year, still it will be around somewhere around 95 to 100. Not more than that. UPSC will not decrease its level anymore now. They can keep on increasing the level of difficulty, but not decreasing the level of difficulty. Only you have to up your preparation. So it can be, you can expect around 95 only. It will not change much. Now it will be around 95 to 100, and even it can go less, but not more. Okay. So keeping that in mind, 95 or let's say 50 is net question that I want to score. Now what is the strategy to score this? Let's come to a cutoff here. What is the strategies to score it? Now a very simple strategy is this. There will be 35 questions minimum, 35 to 40 sometimes, but for our understanding, understand 35 questions which are very basics, including all the 10 subjects we are talking. That means that let's say out of polity they are asking around 15 questions. Economy, last time they had asked about 12 questions. Every year it will be around 12 to 15. Environment, again around 10 to 12 questions. On the lower end, we can get 10 questions, right? What has been increased from the last few years is IR and geography. IR and geography has become major part. Geography, they were asking, if you look at 2 years back papers, they were asking 4 to 5 questions in geography. Last year, they were asked 18 questions. In 2000, this year, 2024 also, they asked 18 questions. So that means that last 2-3 years, the number of questions in geography has drastically increased. Same with the IR. Okay. IR, they were asking 7 to 8 questions. Now they have asking around 15 questions. Right. So that means that before economy was around 18 questions, 17 to 18 questions. Now they are asking around 12 to 15 questions. A little reduced, but it cannot be reduced further because economy as a part of the subject becomes very important, because all we talk about economy at the end of the day. Polity, they cannot reduce much more than that. All you should know the law. No, we as an administrator should be expected to know the law. So that will not be going down. It may come around a little lesser compared to last year, maybe 13, 14. But it will not come to like 2, 3 questions, 4, 5 questions like other subjects. Right? So that means that your economy, polity, IR, environment, geography, science and technology. Right? These are the 9 of, because science and tech also, the world is moving more towards technology. Now, if UPSC wants to have the contemporary relevance, if somebody asking, UPSC asks the question which is happening in today's world. Otherwise, what it will become, it is more like a static exam. It will become more if they are asking about what is there in your body circulatory, what is there in your heart, what vein will do, what artery will do. That will not make any sense now. They are asking what cloud computing will do, right? How artificial intelligence will do, what is machine learning is about. So that is basically they want to update themselves and they expect you to know the current things that is happening around you. They don't want to have the factual knowledge about physics, surface tension, that they know, they don't need to know about it basically. So that is not something they are expecting from you. They are expecting to know about the current event that is happening around you or something world is focusing upon. It is not that we Indians are focusing upon it, the world at large are focusing upon these technologies. These technologies has become more important. So question will also be asked on such things. Now these subjects you have to prepare very well. That means that if I prepare very well, let's say geography, if I am really good at it, out of 19 questions, is it not easy to get 7 to 8 questions at least? Straightforward on climatology and other things, if you are good at it, right? Let's similarly polity, it's more about constitution, right? If you are good at it basically with respect to few current affairs and with respect to constitution, if you are really good at it, you will be getting around 7 to 8 questions directly from there. Even though 12-15 questions are coming, worst case, you can get 7 to 8 straight away in the first round itself. Same goes with the economy. Now what cannot be targeted is history, right? Why you cannot target history? Why do you think you cannot target history? Why I can target polity, economy, geography for that matter, but I cannot target history, art and culture, these topics. Polity, economy or other subject have a standard source to refer. Okay. Now history, this subject what happens is, let's say you may be studying the spectrum, but paper setter is not studying the spectrum, right? So he is a college professor or she is a college professor. Either they will be studying, let's say, Upinder Singh for ancient India, Romila Thapar for ancient India, Satish Chandra for medieval India, right? They will be studying more search-based history basically, right? Now even for, your modern India, they will be studying Bipin Chandra or Plassey to partition, right? So they will be studying some reference book for their teaching. If I am a history professor, right, senior professor, will I be studying the basic NCERTs? And you will be studying the Tamil Nadu NCERT for ancient and medieval, not because question will come from that. It has been arranged very neatly, it becomes easy to read. That is the only reason we refer, okay, you study Tamil Nadu, so that every topic has been covered in a crisp manner, so you can easily cover it. But think from the examiner point of view. Some states, state board books, do you think a Delhi professor will open Tamil Nadu state board and set you the question paper? No. Right. So basically, they as a professor refer the book that they are actually referring for their purpose, right? So now what happens basically, we cannot, there are only 4 to 5 questions are coming. Like let's say ancient India, if they were asking around 10 to 12 questions, then what we would have done? We would have also studied Romila Tapar. It's okay anyways, they're asking 10 to 12 questions, let's go deep. Now what happens, there is only 2 to 3 questions or 3 to 4 questions they are asking. Now for that I cannot study 700, 800 page, right? So what I will do, I will study my class notes plus NCRT and some test series I will do, whatever the extra information get, I will prepare. So there is no guarantee whatever that you have studied can come, because from a simple, one chapter they have hundreds of information. History is about facts. That means that you will have all of them can be asked as, even every line of that book can be asked as a question. So you cannot, prepare yourself to that extent unless you are getting that much of written when you are preparing. Only for 3 to 4 questions, I will not prepare that. Rather, I will concentrate more on polity, revise polity more times. So that means that when you cannot prepare more about it, keep it basics, study it well, and try to solve as many tests as possible. Okay, wherever the source are less, right? For example, polity, I don't need to do hundreds of tests, right? Why I don't need to hundreds of tests? Because whatever the tests are containing, 90% of the information they will take it from Lakshmikant, right? Most of them it is already there in Lakshmikant. Rather than doing 100 tests, repeat Lakshmikant 10 times, you are well to go. Revise the PYQ, understand the Lakshmikant. Keep on seeing how question is being asked, where the trap will be set. Okay, so understanding or analyzing is nothing but understanding the traps, understanding where exactly the question will be set. Okay, so that I will come to now. But however, what I am saying is polity you don't need to write 100 and test. Same with let's say economy, unless it is a new concept. Let's say they are asked about CRR, SLR, what is the effect of it basically, then whatever that you are studying from the standard book, and that would be more than sufficient to answer as long as you have understood the concepts. Right, only few new concept or new topic name itself is new, then you can study about them. But when it comes to science and tech, when it comes to IR, do you have any one source here? Apart from monthly current affairs, do you have any source for this? Now this is a challenging things to tackle. Now the weightage is increasing. At the same time, you do not have one source which you can study and go and write the examination. Ancient medieval India, again same thing. However, only, with respect to ancient India, only thing is number of questions itself is not more. So I can compromise. Okay, I can compromise on ancient medieval. That doesn't mean that you are compromising on the subject. What I am doing, I am studying NCRTs properly, class notes properly. Then again, I am not adding too many here. Because I know that even if I add Tamil Nadu, even if I add another book, it will not add too much of value. Rather, what I will do, I will solve as many questions as possible from the question bank. Various exams they have asked about, whatever about the Mauryan Empire, how many questions they have solved, I will try to solve them. Rather than preparing or reading a new book. So that extra information from that MCQ, I will add to my preparation. That's it. Right. So, you try to solve maximum questions, PYQ and other kind of question that has been asked in CDS, CAPF, other examination for these books. Don't try to increase your number of sources for those subjects where you cannot predict the question. If you are increasing the source 5, 6, then all you can do is remove all that 5, 6 source, take one Romila Tapar and study. But it is not worth, right? Because it is only 3 to 4 questions. Rather than having Tamil Nadu also, old NCRT, new NCRT, class notes, how much you will study for 2, 3 questions? So it is all about understanding how much returns I will get. Prelims is more about, our prelims preparation is more about like a thinking like a businessman. I will invest my time, how much return I am getting. If I am not getting enough return, if I am investing too much, then there is no point of investing. Right? So that means that is one thing that you have to understand. However, IR and S&T you have to invest for 2 reasons, because the question itself is 17, 18, 15, 10 plus questions are there. Though there is no one source, I have to make sure that I am covering them comprehensively. Right? I do not have too much of option saying that IR I cannot cover, I don't have the sources. One, from the current affairs you will cover, right? So you have to refer at least 2 current affairs for that matter. That doesn't mean that reading the 2 of the current affairs line to line. one current affairs properly, whichever you like in the market. Whatever, few will be very good in the language they have used. Some will give a good diagram and explain the concept in a very simple language. Whatever that you like, study one major source. Second, you take basically and refer only the indexes where you don't know anything about the topic, or the new topics, add from them. Don't study both the book continuously, one proper, then add the topic. Along with that, try to, along with your class notes, try to add as many question papers as possible from the various institutes. Now what happens in the institute, if somebody wants to ask about IR paper will be there, they try to cover as many questions as possible. So that means that SARC some institute would have covered, ACN some institute would have covered, BIMSTEC some institute would have covered, Mikak Ganga Corporation some institute have covered, East Asia Summit some institute would have covered, BRICS some would have covered, IPSA some would have covered, G20 some would have covered, right? So now what happens, you are getting too many topics along with your current affairs material. So you would have covered many of the new initiative which may be covered by one institute, by not by other. In that way, you can increase your knowledge by solving as many questions as possible for IR and SNT, because you can expect maximum returns there. But wherever the returns is less, don't involve too much there. Don't be more emotional, more basically logical. However, logical means that it is studying the basics. Not that anyway 2-3 questions are coming, why should even I study NCERT? That you should not tell, right? So 2-3 questions are coming, or let's say if total history they are asking, around 18 to 20 questions. Total history means ancient India, medieval India, art and culture, modern India. 4 subjects together. Within that, modern India last year asked only 2 questions. Ancient India they have been asked basically around 5 to 6 questions. Medieval India around 4 to 5 questions, and some are from the art and culture, right? So keeping that in mind, basically, don't try yourself to study too much with respect to ancient and medieval and modern India. Try to limit yourself with the sources that you have. Don't add too many sources. You decide any one source. Class notes only I will study, along with that NCERT I study, that would be enough. Then solve as many questions as possible, add the content from there. Take the question bank, solve all the questions from Maurya, all the questions from, let's say, Guptas, most of the questions you have covered, that's it. I am happy with it, okay, fine, that's it, right? So don't try to cover too many of things there. But SNT, not only previous year question bank, along with that, different institute ka you do, because they will be searching, right? If I have been told to set IR question, I would be searching in the internet what has happened in a UNEP, have they done any new initiative? So I will search in their website, then pick 1 or 2 questions from there. So because of which what happens, when you are solving too many questions from different institute, you will be getting the topics, right? So that is not, again, they will be very crispy. Whenever they are asking the question, basic question will be there, basic information will be there. It is not pages together of information also. One, the information has been become concise there because of the synopsis, and most of the diverse topic is covered. Getting my point? So wherever, whichever is giving you higher returns, your preparation strategy should be this. With respect to economy, a part of, let's say, geography, especially physical geography, right? And with respect to, let's say, IR, a part of IR, okay? So that is more of a conceptual, right? Polity is also conceptual to an extent, but not too for this. But SNT and environment, right? Within that, basically, environment, mostly questions are factual, right? That means that what is the question factual is, they are now asking about the species, right? But the characteristic of the species, not about what is their endangered species, whether it is, what, CITES is saying. They are not asking too much of their conservation status, whether they have been placed in the Schedule 1 of this Wildlife Protection Act, Schedule 2 of the Wildlife Protection Act. They are not asking that basically, right? Now what they are asking, this is, the cheetah will not roar, right? They are asking about the interesting feature, whether you are really interested in environment, or you are mugging up whether which feature, which category or conservation status it is having, right? So they are trying to know whether you are really liking the subject as such, which will use these hands and then pick the insects to eat, this kind of question, right? There, that means that within that also there are some patterns. That means that deer species are mostly asked, right? Sometimes they will ask sambar deer, sometimes they will ask musk deer, sometimes they will ask reindeer. So like that they will ask about spotted deer, right? So they will be asking about deer species, ape species, right? Different types of apes, chimpanzee, those things that they are trying to ask. Then let's say the big cats, right? That can be lion, that can be cheetah, and other flagship species that government try to protect, like rhino, vultures, elephant, these kind of things. So along with them, those species which you are surrounded by, honeybee, right? These kind of things. That means that try to cover them as much as possible, but don't again keep on start watching the NGO documentary just because some species they have asked. In that way, it will not work. If you are bored and if you want to watch, then big cats you just watch it someday, because all about cheetah they will tell about their characteristic, how they will catch, whether they are nocturnal, whether they are diurnal, right? Morning they hunt, evening they hunt, everything the information will be given, you can see about it, and it will give you an interesting watch, then it is fine. But don't watch it as a part of your preparation, just as a relaxation you can watch it. If something information, something interesting comes, you can add it. But don't try to start watching the videos hours and hours together just for one question. It's all about how much return you get, how much investment I do, how much return I get. What is the meaning of it again? If there is a question, what is the longest banana that has been recently found, where it has been found? Then they have given Andaman, Nicobar, Kerala. In 2016, they had asked about one banana question. Right? They have told that is recently a new species of banana is found. It is of this much 13 meter length, 10 meter length, something like that, basically 13 feet I think, that much lengthy banana it is. Then where it has been recently found. Now it doesn't mean that next time I will start see the brinjal also, potato also, it will not happen. Right? They are one kind of exceptional question. Some examiner failed to ask it, he asked it. For example, this year question, what will be tell in army this rank, navy this rank, air force this rank. Now I cannot mug up all the ranks of tomorrow what is DYSP, the same DYSP if he is working as in the commissionerate he will call ACP, right? The same SP will call DCP. That is, it is not needed, right? Something what I am saying is just because one question is asked in the entire of 15 years, analysis is what, whether it is an exception or whether it was a rule. If it was an exception, don't try to chase it. Okay, but if it is a rule, every year one or other question is asking, then make your preparation strategy according to tackle such question. But if it is asked out of moon, out of blue, they have asked one time here, then don't worry about such question. Okay, in that way, try to cover these subjects. Okay, and then basically prepare well with respect to your TET series. Then along with that, as much as possible, right from now on itself, as I told you, the problem is basically last 2 months. Whatever, whether you are good at now in the TET series, you study 1 week and give the test. That will have only 3-4 chapters. So you feel good, you score well. Now imagine that entire subject, like that entire 10 subjects, right? So that is where the challenges come. So when even though you are doing good in this week, that means that you actually understand the subject, you read the question well. That means that you have the capability to at least solve MCQs. If you plan well, you can crack it. That is only the indication it will give, nothing more than that. But it is not a surety that you will clear just because you are doing good here, because it is a weekly test. 1 week you will prepare 2 chapters and do it. Last 2 months you prepare 10 subjects and do it, are entire different games altogether, right? So what you are supposed to do, try to bring most of your different sources into a same source. That means that if I am studying NCRT, if I am studying, let's say polity book, Lakshmikant. Now if I am also studying, let's say, your polity is Manjunath sir's notes, okay. Now there will be few extra information maybe there in the Manjunath sir notes compared to Lakshmikant, or Lakshmikant may have few separate, let's say Manjunath sir has covered in detail more than Lakshmikant, then Lakshmikant may have 1 or 2 extra information compared to Manjunath sir notes, right? Then NCRT will have 1 or 2 extra information apart from these 2 books. Now when you are studying, try to make a separate page, for example, fundamental rights. Within fundamental right, apart from the books that you have covered, is there anything extra in the NCRT? If it is not, don't study, again fundamental right for the second time. You already know that everything has been covered. First time you read 3, second time you start reading only 1. So that means that I will write it there only what was there. One is my major source. Let's say my class notes, all the time class notes cannot be the major source. Books are always the major source for me, because the class notes have a time limitation. If I am teaching some subject, I know that I cannot teach all the minute things also because I will be running out of the time. I have been allotted this many classes, within that classes I have to manage. For a book, there is no that kind of restriction. Though the page numbers are restricted, they may explain less, but they can cover more topics to show the comprehensivity. So that means that book may there will be more topics compared to whatever that has been covered in the class. Class may some extra trivial information would have been told. Right? In that way, class will be better, understanding the subject. But when I am studying the standard book, add from the class notes itself if there is anything extra in the class notes to your standard book. Also from NCERT, add one more page and just add whatever the extra is there. Now what will happen, in my second reading, I am studying this book along with NCERT extra was there, which is already written in this page along with this. Also, whenever you are revising, let's say the synopsis, I am talking about fundamental right. Question, you have made it wrong. You are seeing why it has went wrong. Now they have given the data about it. All the information, it was there in your Lakshmikant itself. Again, don't try to underline and keep a synopsis separately. Then what will happen, let's say each synopsis is, let's say of 50 pages or 30, 40 pages. Each week you will have test, or you would have taken any test series for that matter, which will have 30 to 40 tests. Each will have around 70 pages synopsis. 70 into 30 is more than 2000 pages. Along with your 10 pages, 10 books, you are having 2100 pages of synopsis which you have underlined, which are the same information which was there in that book. So it is more like basically reading the same thing from the different sources. However, while they explain the same concept, they would have used a different analogies, different way of writing the language. You start getting confused. Study the same thing from the standard sources again and again and again and again. This is the strategy basically, right? I never studied, many of the book. In my journey, I basically never done any text series for that matter, right? However, I have studied all the text series. Two different things. That is, one sitting and doing it for 2 hours. Another going to the Xerox shop, getting the synopsis and seeing what else I don't know. I will add that part. So I have seen all the text. It is not that I have not seen the text, but I never sat for 2 hours and wrote the text. Okay, only 2 or 3 first. Initially I have written when I was studying in Vajram. I have written. So my scores were very, very poor. Right, my ranks were from the bottom. So I it was basically discouraging. So most of the time I come home and start deciding why did I quit my job, whether it was the right decision. Then I used to pick up the UPSC PYQs for the same topics which I have studied. Most of the question is known to me. So then I was confused. Then I started feeling that the question that they are setting itself is not up to the UPSC standard. So let me not worry about it. I had to console. Otherwise I had to quit. I had only 2 choices. Either you quit or you console yourself. So I consoled myself and stopped doing it basically. Then eventually, however, they had many of the new information which was not there in the book. So I don't want to lose the information also, but I don't want to lose the confidence also. Oh, right. So that is why what I did, I stopped attending the test. Right. Rather, I started taking the test and started doing and started analyzing the PYQ. Where exactly what goes. Now, what is the problem? This is the problem with respect to TET series. But TET series doing is very important, right? Because someone who is really good at solving MCQ, I was very good in the solving MCQ throughout my childhood days, right? So whenever this kind of questions, so I used to do good, eliminating even my in CETs everywhere basically where I have done. In objective questions, I am very good when compared to the writing. Okay, so that was already had that advantage. So I thought of quitting it because of it. But otherwise, I don't suggest not to write the test because solving the test will give you 2-hour framework, sitting for 2 hours, making rounding planning. All these things will help you. But I know, so that is why don't quit the test series and only get the synopsis. Write the test so that you get the idea how you have to do the 2 round, 3 round, how to complete the paper and those things. Right, that we will discuss in one more session in detail basically, right. Next, second is basically, so what I used to do, I used to add that and add it to my original source. If any new information is there, I used to, take a sheet and write about it. If it is fundamental right, some cases is there, which is a landmark case, which is not there in Lakshmikant, I used to add it in the here. So that when I am reading, last May, I used to read only one book, so that I can revise as many times as possible. Same book, which will have all the information. There only I have written small, then I used to read that basically. Right. So in that way, it is always better to solve the test. Along with that, please do it and try to bring it into one source as much as possible. Sometimes it might not be possible, then don't worry. As much as possible, do a little extra effort and put it in one place, because that is one time effort. After that, it will actually solve your most of the problem. You can revise as many times as possible. Alright. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind. Okay. Then basically, test why I told is basically another reason. Don't take too much into your heart with respect to test scores. Okay. The reason is, see, if I want to set the paper and 4 days, 5 days I would have done, if I am taking some subject now, let's say I would have done 1 or 2 chapter for 5 days, right? Within 2 chapters, I have to prepare around 40 questions. Plus within 1 week current affairs, I have to prepare 15 questions. So that means that if I want to prepare 50 questions per week, I cannot ensure all of the quality question. 30 question I can set the quality, and other minute details I will go to minute details and ask some question which are not exactly reflecting UPSC standard, but I did not have any choice, right? As from you think from the paper setter, if everyone want to set the paper on a weekly basis, for 2 chapter I want to set you 30 questions. Then you will start picking some topics or some information which is actually irrelevant from the UPSC, but you don't have the choice. From entire fundamental right for any subject, basically for that matter, fundamental right would have taken for 5 days class, or let's say at max fundamental rights plus preamble will take 5 days class with the class notes, writing, everything. That means that only from the fundamental right, if I tell you to pick 35 to 40 questions, how a paper setter will do? What he will do, he will pick at least 20 questions, good questions, 15 questions which is not up to UPSC standard, right? However, what we will do, we don't understand this as a students. We think only from the point that even after studying in the class, I could not do this 15 question. Because of your psychology starts saying that, go deep into the subject. Now what will you start researching and start going again and again, because you are chasing that 15 question which was not actually reflecting UPSC. So when I understood this, so many questions are not actually up to the UPSC. I will take the information, but I will not chase it basically. Otherwise, there is no thing, one, you will lose confidence, other you will, start chasing unnecessary information. Second, what happens is, as I start solving more tests again and again and again from the same institute, for example, if I am setting the paper, you are taking the paper. I am, let's say, giving a question setting on schemes. Ministry I am changing. These schemes come under this ministry, I am changing. First test you will make the mistake. Second test you will make the mistake. Then you realize that whenever the ministry comes, usually this is wrong. So you will start, without even thinking much, third test when the question about scheme comes, ministry comes, you will put it wrong. And fortunately it has become right for you. You are happy that you have found a new trick. But I am not setting UPSC paper, right? Someone else will test. He may give the schemes correct. Now because of your habit of choosing, the same thing again and again, what will you do? You will choose ministry as wrong. Right, because it will start giving you wrong precedents many a times, because the same person is setting 40 papers, that is 4,000 questions. Without your knowledge, you would have started reading his mind, right? If you take any institute, it's them 40 questions, 40 papers continuously, sit and start, then start analyzing where you have done the mistake. After certain time, you realize that this was your mistake, you try to relect it, and your score starts increasing. But the same thing will not be reflected in UPSC. But you start getting confused. I was scoring 100, 110, because it is not that your knowledge was improved. You have decoded the mind of the paper setter in that institute. Okay. So that is why you started getting good score. You thought that you can reflect the same thing in UPSC. Now UPSC, all they have to do is polity, entire polity, 10, 12 questions they have to set. He can set a best quality question, no problem. For us, for 1 week, 1 chapter 35 question, entire polity 10 question. There is a hell lot of difference, right? So what we don't understand is this. So he will set the question, we start blaming the paper setter here. Or sometimes you don't even understand that. They are giving a minute information, you start running behind it. What they will do? They will start changing minute information which will make you a habit of reading in the UPSC. In UPSC, when professors are setting, they don't do the minute changes. They only do the major changes. That means that if something is, let's say, whenever there is a P wave and S wave, you will tell, let's say one will travel in solid, other will both solid and liquid. Right? They will interchange P wave to S wave. They will not change anything else. As it is sentence they will keep, but they will tell P wave will travel only in solid but not in liquid. S wave will travel both in solid and liquid. They will try to change the information just to check whether you are having the clarity or not. Within the sentence they will not change. Minute things will not be changed. But in the test series what will do? They do the minute changes. Now when you are reading the minute changes, when you are reading for the exam, you also start in a UPSC, start thinking that word by word. Reading line by line, word by word is the biggest mistake in UPSC prelims. Whoever is reading word to word in UPSC, he will do most of the mistakes. Whoever do at the surface level, just reading the sentence as a plain, he will not do much mistakes. He only seeing where exactly change will do. So more you analyze, you try to understand where UPSC sets the wrong statement. Don't only read the right statement, also read why this statement was wrong. Wow, professor had made it wrong. Right? If it is a long wave communication, he will give short wave communication. The conceptual, that's it, he will change. He will not change the entire statements. So that means that it is more or less basically once you start understanding how, because they are like, their job is not to set the PYQs, right? Not to set the MCQs. You think about a college professor, Delhi University professor, who is a history head of the university, or maybe a very senior professor working from 30 years. All he will do is evaluate the paper in his daily life, have a family life, go to office, teach for 3 hours, evaluate few papers, come back home. Suddenly he has been told to set the MCQ, which is not his daily job. Now he will not be knowing to do that minute change. Now here what happens? Same person is setting the paper 1 week, next week, 3rd week, 5th week he becomes pro. So he will start changing the things at the minute level. They do once in a year and give their paper as it is, come back home. So that means that they will not do the minute changes for two intentions. They can't do, I am not saying. If they really want, they can do. But that is not what they are checking with you. They are checking with the larger understanding of the subject rather than the minute things. They don't want you to know the minute details. That is not what they are trying to check with the UPSC aspirant. They are taking you understanding the broader understanding of the subject. That is why they change only at the broader level. So once you understand this through UPSC PIQ analysis, then you will not worry about these mistakes you do in the test. Then you yourself feel that he did not have choice, so he made some minute changes. I will not worry about such question, because I will be knowing that this is not the change that UPSC do, and we basically will not understand how the professors think who are teaching with that age-old people, right? So that means that the way they think, how they want you to know is very different from what I want you to know, right? So because of that, basically most of the question that you have been asking will be at large changes, not to the minute changes. Once you understand this, basically most of the question, even though you don't know the topic, you will be knowing whether it is right or wrong. Most of the question when I attend, I will be knowing that I don't know anything about the topic, but by reading the statement I can say that this cannot be the right answer, right? The way it has been framed itself says that it is something wrong here, right? It is not directly, because they usually take from a standard book, change the major things. If that has been artificially created, if you will start feeling this is something examiner himself has written this, it has not been taken from a standard book, you start getting that feeling once you start analyzing the PYQ again and again and again, okay? So that is why analyze the PYQs. What you can do is, for this week basically you take a task of taking one subject or two subjects that has been completed for you, analyze basically, right? Then you can get back with your analysis what you have done. Like that we will discuss step by step. Then I will have one more session with respect to topic itself, right? History, what exactly has to be studied, because one subject will take 1 day basically. It is not that within 2 hours I will give you all Gyan of prelims. That is not going to happen basically. But this is in large, you have to understand that make your preparation crispy, to the point. Don't make your sources too many. Last 2 months is what decides, not the earlier months. To make your last 2 months too much of intense as well as to the exam, you have to keep it as simple as possible. Clear about it, right? Then analyze few subjects where you have standard source. Don't study too many material, don't study too many texts. Rather than that, start reading the book again and again where the books are already fixed and you are in. Some subject like history, where books what you study, though it may be fixed for you, but question will not come from that book, don't worry too much about them. Read one book, cover your basics, try to solve as much MCQ as possible. and the question that has been asked, question bank may whatever that has been asked in the history, try to cover that much of extra information that you can get. Don't run behind 4-5 sources. With respect to IR, environment and these kind of subject, especially on the contemporary relevance, for example, climate change and pollution, go little deep about it. Okay, go about the organization, what are the reports saying, that in that way. Along with that, basically there is no single source for them, so it is always better it is one proper current affairs, one extra current affairs for those which has been missed from these topics, and then basically solving as many questions as possible from the different institutes, not from the MCQs but the different institute, because it will be expected from the contemporary lines. 5 years ka question which is talking about 3G, right? Now we are in 5G, so solving PYQ will not be more helpful for you for science and tech, because that is be changing from year to year. Same with the IR, right? Before they were asking more about basically which is this sea surrounded by which country. Now they are asking places in news. So little evolution is there basically with respect to those kind of question that you can go through. So you just revise any, analyze any one subject of your where you have been comfortable with. Then you can show me that discussion whatever that you have done. Then basically we will go about it and discuss how it should be done. All right. For many of the topic, there is nothing called prelims and mains. Okay. For few of topics, yes, there are prelims separately you have to study, mains separately you have to study. But what I suggest is you start solving the MCQs. If you, as long as you are doing fine, okay, I am doing well, then at least till mid of, let's say, Jan, right, you can focus upon your mains as well. More on mains, gradually start shifting. That means that, let's say, if I am studying 6 hours for mains, 1 hour for prelims, over the period of time I will make this 5, I will make this 2, right? So by the time January comes, I will be studying only 2 to 3 hours for mains, remaining everything for prelims. So that you can, because this year one thing that we have to observe is between the prelims and mains there is only 80 days gap. Okay, so that means that after the prelims you will not have enough time for the mains also. So that means that even if you can carry your mains till March also, it is good, but not at the cost of prelims. You have to keep on reducing the time allotted to mains. You can be keep writing essay once in a week, right? Ethics answer once in a week. So on Sundays you can keep 3-4 hours of answer writing and making sure that 500 marks is in control. Along with this important subject that are common to, let's say, geography. You are studying prelims, the same topic you can keep 1 or 2 answer writing also, so that the revision of the subject also can happen. You can see how much you can recollect. In that way answer writing will also be attached and optional also. So maybe but another 2-3 hours you can keep it for mains over the period of time. Then from April basically you can completely shift to prelims. But even in the January you at least have 1 or 2 hours for the mains. But if you are starting for the first time, you are giving your first attempt itself, then as much as possible cover your mains till your January and keep major, let's say, optional and other essay and ethics. Only that thing which don't need special reading, only writing practice is needed. For that you can keep it weekly 1 or 2 days, 2 hours and write the answers and keep in touch with them. But it has to be a gradual process. It can be, today I will start from prelims. It will not happen that way basically. You have to keep on reducing the number of hours and keep on increasing the prelims. In that way you will actually gradually shift from one to other. Right? In the month of April you can entirely keep it for prelims. Right? You can entirely, only prelims can be kept in the last 2 months. Okay? When we have to contain the information based on the PYQ analysis. When you are seeing the PYQ, if the topic is not that important, right? Let's say a report is there, the highlights of the reports are there, right? The report itself is not that important report. Then the question can be, who releases this report and what are the major criteria, or let's say some index is there. But that index itself, that it's not that important, then at the max who publishes this report can be asked. Let's say that import is a little more important, then they can also ask you the component of the report and what is India's rank, not more than that, right? But if it is you are studying within that report, they have told that India has performed here, other countries has not performed, that will be more useful for a main analysis rather than prelims. So prelims you cannot make notes, okay? So prelims is basically about recognition, not about recollecting. Mains is about recollecting. If I want to write about Gandhi, I should remember all the books that he has written, or some of the books, some of the magazines, some of the organization he associated, all I have to give an example in mains, one or two I have to recollect and write. But in prelims, you don't need to recollect. But if I give you 4 options, can you identify it or not? It works something like this. When you see these KBC questions, Kaun Banega Karodapati, or those kind of quiz question, you see a question, they would not have given you the option. But once you see the question, you know that answer I know, let the option come. Once the option come, you will say this is the answer, B is the answer, C is the answer. Right? It is more about recognition. You might not be able to recollect at that point of time, but when options are given, are you able to recollect? That means that more I revise from the source rather than making the notes, even from the standard book, if I read 10 times. Right? Now what happens, let's say if I am making about Gandhiji books, okay? If it is something which is not available in your book, you are collecting from the internet, then write that information, extra information which is not there in your book. Other than that, don't make notes for prelims. That means that let's say I want to write about Gandhiji, right? So books you would have written, let's say 6 books. From the prelims perspective, any 6 can be asked. From mains, it is under my control. I will write only 2 books in my answer. So in notes only also I will write only 2 books so that I can write it again. But in prelims what will happen? Any 6 book can be asked. He would have a member or a founder of 6 organization, 10 organization. They can ask about any 10 in prelims. But mains it is my choice. I can write 1 or 2 examples, so I can write 1 or 2 in my notes. But when I am making the notes for prelims, there is no end to it. Because anything can be asked. So better is have your notes, have your main book, revise them many a times. Underline it, revise it, underline it, revise it. When the question comes, you see the option, are you able to recognize it or not? Right? If you start writing each subject, making notes, because you cannot stop at a limit. Prelims you can stop. Let's say there are 5 challenges, 10 challenges. I don't need to write all the 10 challenges in my notes because I know that in exam I cannot write all the 10 challenges. So I will write around 6-7 major challenges in my notes and stop other 3. But with respect to mains, what will happen? Prelims, what will happen? Any 10 of the initiative of the government they can ask. Let's say what is the government initiative to protect the wildlife environment, wildlife and let's say biodiversity. In mains, I can write 1 or 4, 5 examples. That would be more than sufficient because it is only one part of the sub question. Main question there will be 3 sub part. One part will be maybe initiative to protect the wildlife and biodiversity. But in prelims, if they have done 20 initiative, among the 20, anything can be asked. So if I am making notes for prelims, then I have to write all the 20 so that anything can be asked. So that itself takes lot of time. Rather than that, what I can do, 20 is there in your notes, just underline it, study it again and again. If something you are collecting as a new information from internet, then again you might not go back to internet to collect the same information, then write it down in your notes, in your main book. But other than that, don't try to write functions of president, powers of president. In your Lakshmikant, there are, legislative power is 10-15, executive power is 10-15, judicial power is 10-15. Can I write all the 10-15 point and make a notes? Then it is become more of a writing the same thing what is there in the book. So it will not serve the purpose. But let's say if I get some power which was not in Lakshmikant, but I read it in the internet, that information I can make a notes and write it to Lakshmikant book. So that when I am studying, I can also have the 11th power that he is having. Other than that, don't make a note. Now, with respect to your question about particular topic, right, it is only you will understand where to stop only from the PYQ analysis. If it is not really important, don't need to go to the minute information. Very important, then also at the surface level information is needed. If human development index, components is also needed. Right, ease of doing business, government is always talking about ease of doing, also components are needed. What are the components under which ease of doing business is calculated, who calculates it. But if it is a small index, then who publishes it would be more than sufficient rather than the components of it. Because there will be thousands of information, let's say hundreds of indexes every year. I cannot keep reading all the components of all the indexes. If government itself is giving prominence to it, please study about under what basis they give the ranking. Okay, but government is also not giving that much weightage, but it is in news, just who publishes would be more than sufficient. That is where you have to draw a line based on the PYQs. Okay, with respect to component with HDI as well as ease of doing business, they have also about what are the components of it. So gender inequality index, right? All those important index that we discuss, for that also see the component, but otherwise just see who publishes the report, right? That you draw a line for yourself how much to study, right? Fine. Okay, so this is the basic information. In the next session, what we will do, we will actually go step by step, right? So, because in one class, if we discuss everything, nothing can be touched as such. It is just a overall understanding what prelims is. Next, what I will do, I will have with the prelims paper, right? With respect to history, we will have one subject and then we will discuss what are the questions that has been appeared, how you are supposed to prepare. Meanwhile, you prepare your own analysis so that you, once you yourself do it, you will be knowing what exactly is required and your preparation will start aligning accordingly. Alright. So, in that way we will continue. Chalo then. Okay. Thank you so much.